Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for the Star Wars Unlimited Galactic Championship. We are finally here. My flight leaves tomorrow night. It's really happening. I am so excited, and I am so tired from all of the deck testing and the game testing and getting lines memorized on my competitive deck. It has been quite a process that I have once again left you all out of. A lot of that was due to me trying to find alternative solutions to film my games rather than just using my cell phone, but I haven't gotten anywhere with that. So we will be getting more live gameplay shortly after Galactics, I'm sure. But I wanted to touch base with you guys before I left to let you know that I will be doing vlogging, maybe some streaming. We will be taking it all in, and I'll be putting up a video to commemorate the weekend. I'm super excited for that. But other than that, I'll wanted to check in with you guys with my predictions of what I'm going to see a lot of this weekend. I'll let you guys know what I'm playing. And just my overall expectations of the weekend. So excited. Let's start by talking about something that I'm a little nervous for. I think a lot of us are nervous for, which is Trilogy. Side events, it is confirmed that we will be playing the new Trilogy format as a side event during the weekend. And this is an old slide from my Django video that I made months and months and months ago. Maybe, beginning of that meta, right? This is what we get to look forward to with Trilogy, because the premier ban list is not impacted, right? So it is just going to be a Django fest. They have managed to give us a 3-deck format, and now it's essentially a 2-deck format, because if you don't ban this deck during the ban phase of Trilogy, I don't know what you're doing instead. Pretty much everyone that's actually putting thought into Trilogy is going to be playing this deck, and I guarantee 90% of Trilogy games it's going to get banned by both players, and now we're just choosing between 2 decks. I really like the concept of Trilogy. I really don't like the removal of the ban list, or of the premier suspension list. I like it in some cases. I like the idea of bringing Han DJ back. I think that one's relatively okay to bring back. Set 1 Boba leader is always fun to play, but that's that's problematic, So we've already talked about, my local guys, we've already talked about when we bring Trilogy back home with us, the local rules will be Django's not involved in Trilogy. So this weekend I think it's going to be tough, but I think once we do Trilogy at home, it's going to be a lot better. Django just sucks to play. It's not fun to play. It's not fun to play against. And the fact that we're factoring it into another game format is just annoying to me. Enough about that. So going into some decks, these are not, I would consider none of these decks besides one a meta deck. But what I will say is, as far as the Galactic Championship is concerned, these are some decks that they're just doing something. They don't really care about what you're doing. They're doing one thing, and if you can't stop it, they will steal games from you. Vader Yellow is by far the most relevant out of the 4 of these leaders. Vader just does this thing. If you can deal with it, congratulations. If you can't, you lose. Piet, either red or blue, is kind of doing the same thing, right? I don't care what you're playing. I will ramp. I will turn 1, prepare for takeoff, right? I literally don't care. Turn 2, I will ramp. Turn 3, I will play a resupply carrier, and then after that, I will just start dropping bombs. And if you can't deal with that, then I win. Double green Rex, obviously the unity of purpose is just like, this is what I'm trying to do. Like, can you stop it? I'm going to flip on 5, and then I will play unity. And that's going to represent like 60 damage to your base unless you play around it. And then Kylo's super aggro. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about it on YouTube and on Reddit. Another one of those things, like, I'm just going to burp out a ton of units and put upgrades and lightsabers and whatever, pump up all my guys like on, resource 4 and 5. And if you can't deal with it, then you just win. So these leaders, while only one of them I think deserves like real respect in the meta conversation, there's going to be a few of these, lurking around. I wouldn't be surprised to see, a handful of these from players that just know that like I can play this, and if I do my one thing, then I win. So, three of these decks that are like swarm aggro, just like bombing run and like grenade strike are big players for both of these, or for, three of those. And the Piet thing, kind of depends on what color set you're playing. Like, if you're blue, you just mulligan for your fells and then just kind of like play them as they come down, depending on what, depending on what version of Piet is out there. If it's blue, then you just, maximize those early game turns of getting units out there, and then be ready to fell any of the big stuff that comes. Like I said, not expecting a ton of these, but be aware that there are people that are going to try and sneak some of these in. Well, besides Vader, Vader's going to be out there, so you got to be ready for that. These are leaders that I think are on the maybe of being like really relevant in the meta conversation. After doing some thinking, like, it's kind of wild how much similarity there is between Talzin and Quinlan. Like force throw decks that are able to establish like big mid-game presence and then like kind of just fizzle out or have the tendency to like run out of gas like really quickly after that. But like they are good decks. Quinlan, as we've seen historically, is like a really good Swiss leader. Like, you win Swiss games and then you just kind of get stomped on in top 8. It's happened in multiple tournaments. It's a pattern that we've seen quite a bit over the past like 2 metas. So, those two, for sure deserve their respect. And I think they're just kind of, because Quinlan just hasn't been consistently like winning, coming up on top, he kind of sits in the maybe tier. Palpatine Blue is like the only control that I've seen this meta that I think, besides Kira, I think like Kira, Data Vault, nothing's changed. I don't think it's gotten super worse. I don't think it's gotten any better. Palpatine Blue did get a lot better though with the Night Sister Warrior. 2-drop that draws a card on defeat. So like Palp Colossus turn 2 draws 2 cards, and now like the disadvantage, I mean, it's Colossus, right? So they still have to draw the Night Sister Warrior. But as long as they do that, and they also have like Pershing to help with card draw early game. So, I've seen some improvement in Palp Colossus. I'm still not super thrilled with like the idea of playing control in this meta. I think there's just a lot of like really solid mid-range going around right now, and decent aggro transitioning to Kaz. Kaz Blue is like, starting to kind of be like a fringe deck that I see every now and then, playing like Ogdo Bogdo and like the 3/5 that can't attack, stuff like that. Kaz just like really elevates, and he's almost in that tier of like, my deck does something, like either deal with it or die. But I think he does have a little bit more like dynamic play within that deck, where the other stuff is like on the last slide is like I have this one card, like I have the Unity, or I have the Clone Combat Squadron, etc. I think Kaz is a little bit more dynamic than that, and kind of sits in this like maybe. So like all four of these leaders, I think are like respectable, but I'm not fully confident in like their representation and like conversion rates. This is where I started with my testing this meta. I played basically this exact list. Besides, I main decked the Fleet Admiral over Client. Came in second place in like a 16-player store showdown. Actually lost to a guard Data Vault. Not a fantastic matchup for me. But yeah, this is obviously built like capitalizing on the ECL Vader. I do think it's like the only blue villain ECL deck that's like reasonable to play. I'm not super thrilled on the new Kylo. Like, it's nice you get to filter. I just like a 7 deploy leader on ECL. Guys, I played a lot of set 1 Vader. Seven deploy leaders with ECL bases feel bad. Not saying that those decks are like super comparable. Just this version of like the blue villain ECL seems like the one where you can apply the most pressure, you get the most value, are able to push the most amount of damage, while also like most things in here are shielded, so they're harder to remove and you can just be a little bit more consistent. And I mean, having Maul as like a ambush, it's basically like Maul is basically like your wrecker. You just ambush, overwhelm, hopefully for lethal damage. There's some cool stuff you can do in here. It's pretty consistent. The reason why I moved on from this is because of all the hand hate. If Vader gets ripped out of your hand, you really like cannot leverage enough to win games, especially like with the 25 HP base. Overwhelming Barrage obviously is a super important card. Craving Power is a new addition that is really good. Long Pike's always great. Iden is like a secondary ECL target for 5 damage. Long Pike does that too. A real fun combo is like turn 1 Inferno 4, turn 2 Squadron Brute, and then you pilot the Wingman. Buff both of those, and now you've got like 2 4/4s in space turn 2. It's pretty cool. You can put a surprising amount of pressure in space, even though you're only playing like, 6, 9 space units, right, with the shuttle. But those are all super, super powerful cards, and can, with the Wingman and like Legal Authority, covering the wing, you can really start to like get dynamic in space and do some cool stuff. But at the end of the day, like, even though I called this the mid-range monster because the Vader ECL absolutely like decimates mid-range, but if that gets ripped from your hand at all, like Spark of Rebellion, if you're not being careful and you're down to 2 cards, you can get pillaged, or like they're ripping cards out of your hand, it gets Force Thrown taken out of your hand. This really falls apart, and it's eventually why I moved on. It also is so bad against aggro. Really struggles against Vader. Really struggles against Sabine, which we'll talk about Sabine in a little bit. But yeah, the aggro matchup felt horrendous, and I eventually decided to move on. Little bit about Sabine. I mean, Sabine's gonna get played. It's been getting played for the beginning of the game. Sabine players are going to play Sabine. Churret throws an absolute wrench into this deck. Churret is just an absolute beast. Like, comes out on Sabine's flip turn and basically like just says that your leader is your leader as its base unit is useless. You can I mean, there's lines to play around it. But that's why this is not, I've put very little effort into like a Sabine build for this meta, but because of Churret, like I did bring in the Pathfinder into main, and obviously the Fighter for Freedom is like a staple main. Yoda's lightsaber is like the only like real new card for Sabine, and it's, you know, a cheaper upgrade. It has like close enough to the stats that it has the perfect stats that you need for Sabine. And maybe the most important part is that it not guarantees, but like even greatly increases your chances of hitting a perfect four cause I believe in, where the dark saber, you know, you could whiff. Like dark saber and timely intervention were like your only cards that like whiffed, at least in main board. But now, like if you've resourced both of your timelies, or if you've, you know, played one and resourced one, you are guaranteed a perfect four cause each time you play it, as far as the main deck is concerned. But overall, this mostly hasn't changed. Churret is just such a beast that even as someone that's been comfortable playing Sabine for most of the time, with the Han 2 meta being more, or just like the force base meta becoming prevalent, and Churret being like a staple card, I just can't do it. But we will see a bunch of Sabines for sure, not a doubt in my mind. And they will have practiced that matchup, and they will find ways to, you know, deal with Churret. A lot of it involves like the masterpiece, pinging it, and then you know, give like a 3 power unit the lightsaber and swing into Churret. There's ways around it, but yeah, overall I'm not feeling it. This is the sleeper deck. I've been thinking about this for the past like day or two. This is the sleeper deck. I think it's not doing anything broken. There's no like crazy exploits going on here. By the way, this is not like this is like Thork's list. So like this is not a list that I've run or that any of my friends are running exactly. But conceptually, Boba Day Vault I think is positioned super well right now. It's a space heavy deck, which is like positioned well. Like Vader is kind of like the only big space heavy deck. It actually matches up into Vader pretty well because you're just like occupying space and making efficient trades. It applies a lot of pressure on Han 2, putting like indirect damage on a board that's like playing a lot of damaged units. You just got to get savvy with your removal. Like make sure you get like the restore units off their board. The Dorian gunship is like maybe the most important card in the deck if you're like thinking of like Boba as an actual pilot leader. The Force 6 stat line is like really good. And then flipping Boba gives it like a 10 butt, which is like really hard to force throw into. Not a lot of force throw decks are running 10 cost units or 10 cost cards at all. So I feel like this is really well positioned. Like I said, it's not breaking anything. It's not doing anything that's like unfair in any way. It's playing really like overrolling barrage, putting a lot of pressure with indirect damage. You can close out games with planetary bombardment, maul, devastator. You're doing like a lot of good, just like high value things. So I think this deck is positioned pretty well. I wouldn't be surprised if it has a lot of day one success and a lot of day one conversion. And this is not my list, but this is the deck that I am bringing to Vegas. It's the deck that has the biggest target on its back. I'm running a similar list. This is obviously Thork's list. The list that I'm running, shout out to my local like series comp players, Jackson and Dylan. Shout out you guys. Pretty much been following their testing and their list. It's pretty similar to this, with the exception. Actually, the more I look at it, I am running a lot of different things. Running like less Ogdo Bogdo, no lightsabers, different removal choices, no mace, stuff like that. But a lot of, I mean, the basic idea, like you're really hinging the deck on, like Itinerant Warrior and Mundi are like your two homies for sure. Mundi, this deck is like borderline unfair with what it's leveraging, right? Like you've got this double-edged strategy of my leader plays units for cheaper, and my Force Mechanic and Kiadi Mundi lets me draw cards. So like I'm burping out a ton of units, high value units, even if I'm playing them damaged. And then obviously with the Mundi Force Throw combo, Force Throw obviously is the most talked about card. I don't really have to explain myself there. It's because of that, like you're leveraging, like it's the most unfair thing going on in the game right now. It's not like, in my opinion, it's not like horrendous and needs to get, Force Throw will probably get dealt with when it needs to. I'm not gonna like get on a soapbox about any of that. But this is a really good deck. It's extremely consistent. With Han's ability to like play stuff cheaper, obviously just super flexible, super valuable. I was telling someone it feels like the most flexibility I've had in a deck since Han Yellow with DJ. Like the ramp and smuggle working together felt like a really flexible play style, and this feels a lot similar, and arguably is stronger just with its consistency and its ability to draw cards and just put a lot of board control pressure against opponents. Entrenched is a super important card. That's like basically removal. Churret obviously a staple. Grogu is like your for real MVP. I mean, Mundi and Itinerant Warrior are super important, but Grogu is the truth. And Chewbacca and Krayt Dragon are obviously like excellent finishers. This is, I think, the best deck in the format. My sideboard is also pretty similar to this. But yeah, this is what I will be playing in Vegas. Obviously, like I said, it's not this exact list, but lots of similarities here. And everyone expects this deck to be everywhere. And so we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see like the conversion rates. Obviously, with so many people playing it, the conversion rates aren't going to be like completely nasty. People, it's not Django, right? But yeah, this is what I'm playing. And lastly, what I leave with you guys is, good luck, have fun. I think I had almost forgotten like the have fun part as of the past couple weeks, just like stressing over all the testing and everything. But for real, it is going to be fun. Keep that in mind. If you're watching, you happen to see me in Vegas, obviously like come up and say hi. I would be super shocked if like anybody was like, oh, Moisture Farmer. But that would be cool. So feel free if you're there and you see me, if you recognize me, that'd be insane. But good luck, have fun. Hopefully see some of you guys there. And we'll see you guys in the next one.